Hello everyone, here's my review for Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. At World's End follows the rest of the crew's mission to rescue Jack Sparrow from Davy Jones' locker and eventually fight for the pirates' freedom. I seriously think this may be the most underrated film of all time. Call it nostalgia, call it shilling for this franchise, call it whatever you want. I love At World's End, and I seriously think it doesn't get the credit it deserves. I think we're all allowed one movie that may not be that good, may be widely disliked or widely thought of as mediocre, but we're allowed to like it. And that film for me is At World's End, although I think I can reasonably defend it, so let me try. It has its flaws, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and act like this is a perfect film, but I think it is leagues better than most people give it credit for. Visually speaking, it's the best the trilogy has seen. The cinematography is gorgeous, the CGI is incredibly realistic, and when I say realistic, I mean grounded in the scene. The CGI characters and elements truly look like they're in the scene with the actors. And I watched this movie with my brother, and he kept saying every shot looks like it could be a screensaver, and that really is true. This film's camera work is absolutely beautiful. And the shots aren't just typically pretty shots. They actually feel raw and real and like only Gore Verbinski could have shot them. That's my main point with this trilogy, is that it feels like only Gore Verbinski could have made it. And I feel like that's so rare these days for movies to have such authorship as these films do. This should be a no-brainer, but Hans Zimmer's score is excellent. Honestly, I think this is the best score this franchise has, and it's one of the best scores in film history. I mean, I could go down the list of tracks that are just so hummable, but they all really add to the story and the characters. And the action, of course. Additionally, the performances are just as good as they've been throughout the rest of the series. Geoffrey Rush is back as Barbossa, and he is fantastic. Johnny Depp kills it as always. Bill Nighy and Tom Hollander, albeit in a bit of smaller roles, return, and they are both deliciously evil. And Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom have their signature chemistry. Writing is where a lot of people complain about this film, but I think it's better than people think. A lot of people complain about the pacing of this film, and it is 2 hours and 40 minutes, but I really don't understand that complaint. Despite this film having maybe the least action set pieces of these first three films, it doesn't drag really at all. Now, if your tolerance for Gore Verbinski's weirdness is slim, I can see this getting old for you, but I'm not bothered by that. So this film is fun for me from start to finish. It does get wacky and all over the place at times, but I think that's the natural escalation of what this series has been doing. Curse of the Black Pearl is a fairly straight action-adventure film, and then Gore Verbinski's wackiness starts to bleed into Dead Man's Chest. And then with At World's End, he's just going balls to the wall and doing what he wants to do. He's having fun with the action sequences. He's including moments that some might call silly, but I would call genuinely fun. But I don't know, I think the major plot beats actually come at pretty regular intervals. Now yes, at times this film can feel like it's going in 10 different directions at once, but it is handling a lot of characters from the prior two films. And the first two acts are all the bargaining and double-crossing setup that's necessary for the amazing third act. Seriously, this might be one of the greatest third acts in the history of cinema because it is all payoff in the midst of one of the coolest action set pieces of all time. The Maelstrom sequence at the end of this film is perfect from start to finish. It does an amazing job at paying off character beats from the prior two films, and it just provides some really cool choreography. Combine that with Hans Zimmer's score that I mentioned earlier, and you get something truly special, which ends with a perfect cap to this trilogy. I know I said this about the last two films, but I really want to hammer the point home about clear character motivations and goals. This film continues the trend of great, clear characters, and all of their arcs are resolved in satisfying ways. I could keep gushing about At World's End, but I'm going to cut it here and give At World's End a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and act like this film is perfect because it's not, but it is criminally underrated. This movie makes me feel emotions that I can barely put into words, and it is special to me in ways that I really can't describe. So if you dislike At World's End, I suggest you give it another shot. And if you've never seen it before, well, I highly recommend it. But that's going to do it for this review. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to On Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales. Part of me wants to, but I feel like my opinions on those films are not going to change, as I kind of dislike both of them to varying degrees, but I digress. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you all in the next one.